The silk of my gown whispers against my skin, a soft, luxurious sigh as I gaze out the window of the bridal suite. Below, the grand ballroom of the obsidian hall glitters, a sea of white roses and crystal chandeliers, each reflecting the soft glow of 1,000 tiny lights. My heart, usually a steady drum, flutters with a nervous excitement I tell myself is joy, not apprehension. Mark is waiting, a man of impeccable taste and even more impeccable connections, a future laid out like a perfectly pressed blueprint. The string quartet begins a new, soaring melody, a signal, I think, for my descent. But then, a sudden, jarring chord, a cacophony of shouts from downstairs, sharp and dissonant against the elegant music. A hush falls, thick and suffocating, replacing the joyous murmur of hundreds of guests. The door to my suite, which I thought was locked, swings open with a soft click. He stands there, not Mark, but a shadow carved from the night, his presence a physical weight in the room. His eyes, dark and unyielding, lock onto mine, and in that instant, I know my life, the one I meticulously planned, is irrevocably over. The world outside my window, a meticulously arranged tableau of urban sophistication, suddenly feels like a distant memory, a dream from another lifetime. The man in the doorway, tall and impossibly still, wears a suit that seems to absorb the light, making him a silhouette against the opulent backdrop of my wedding day. His gaze, a deep, unsettling brown, holds a quiet intensity that speaks of unspoken power, a stark contrast to the polite, practiced smiles I've been surrounded by all morning. My breath catches, a tiny, desperate gasp trapped in my throat, as the scent of expensive cologne and something subtly metallic, like cold steel, reaches me. The air in the room thickens, heavy with an unspoken threat that makes the delicate lace of my veil feel like a suffocating shroud. I can hear the muffled chaos downstairs, a low rumble of fear and confusion, a stark counterpoint to the elegant silence he brings with him. Every instinct screams at me to run, to hide, but my feet are rooted to the plush carpet, my body frozen in a tableau of bridal perfection, utterly useless against this sudden, terrifying intrusion. He steps further into the room, his movements fluid and deliberate, like a predator assessing its prey. His eyes never leave mine, a silent challenge, a promise of disruption that chills me to the bone. I try to speak, to demand an explanation, but the words dissolve on my tongue, replaced by a dry, metallic taste of fear. My hands, adorned with the delicate diamond of Mark's engagement ring, tremble slightly, betraying the composure I desperately tried to project. This isn't how my day was supposed to go. This isn't the grand entrance I envisioned, nor the man I expected to see. The entire carefully constructed facade of my life, built on stability and predictable luxury, feels like it's crumbling around me, piece by agonizing piece, under the weight of his unwavering stare. The silence stretches, taut and unbearable, punctuated only by the frantic pounding of my own heart against my ribs, a drumbeat of pure, unadulterated terror. A low, resonant voice finally breaks the spell, a voice that carries the weight of command, smooth as polished stone yet sharp as a blade. "Miss Thorne," he says, his tone devoid of warmth. "My apologies for the interruption. Your fiancé, Mr. Sterling, has unfortunately found himself in a rather complicated situation." The words hang in the air, dripping with veiled meaning, a sinister implication that makes my blood run cold. My mind races, trying to grasp the reality of what he's saying, to connect this imposing figure to Mark, to the life I thought I knew. Mark, with his perfectly tailored suits and his carefully curated business empire, always seemed untouchable, insulated from anything so crude, so overtly threatening. Yet here stands this man, a living, breathing embodiment of everything Mark's world supposedly kept at bay, and he speaks of Mark's complications as if they are his own making. He gestures subtly towards the door, and two other men, equally imposing and dressed in dark, anonymous suits, appear behind him. Their presence is a silent reinforcement of his authority, their faces impassive, their eyes constantly scanning, assessing. They are the silent guardians, the ones who ensure his will is done, and their very stillness is more terrifying than any overt aggression. My gaze flicks between them, a desperate search for an escape route, a sign of weakness, anything I can exploit. But there is nothing, only an impenetrable wall of controlled power. The reality of my situation begins to sink in, a cold, heavy stone in my stomach. This isn't just a misunderstanding. This is an invasion, a hostile takeover of my most sacred day, and I am merely a bystander, a pawn in a game I don't understand. I assure you, he continues, his voice still calm, this is not personal, merely business. However, Mr. Sterling's oversight requires immediate attention, and unfortunately, you are now a part of that attention. The casualness with which he delivers this pronouncement is chilling, as if he's discussing a minor inconvenience rather than shattering a woman's wedding day. My mind struggles to process the implications. What oversight? What business? Mark had always been so careful, so meticulous. The idea that he could be involved in something that would bring this kind of danger to our doorstep is unfathomable. Yet the evidence stands before me, undeniable and terrifying. The air in the room crackles with an unspoken tension, a silent acknowledgement that the rules of my world have just been irrevocably broken. My voice, when it finally emerges, is a shaky whisper, barely audible above the frantic beating of my heart. "What do you want?" I ask, the question laced with a desperate plea for clarity, for understanding. He offers no immediate answer, only a slight tilt of his head, a gesture that could be curiosity or amusement, or perhaps something far more sinister. His eyes, still fixed on mine, seem to probe, to search for something within me, a reaction, a weakness, a strength. It's an unnerving sensation, like being stripped bare under a harsh, unforgiving light. I feel exposed, vulnerable, every carefully constructed layer of my identity peeling away under his intense scrutiny. The silence stretches again, pregnant with unspoken possibilities, each one more terrifying than the last, as I wait for his next move, his next chilling pronouncement. "What I want," he finally replies, his voice a low murmur that seems to vibrate through the very floorboards, "is what is owed, and since Mr. Sterling is currently unavailable, you, Miss Thorne, represent a certain leverage." Leverage. The word echoes in my mind, cold and clinical, reducing me to a mere object, a tool in his dangerous game. The realization hits me with the force of a physical blow. I am not just an innocent bystander. I am now an asset, a bargaining chip in a world I never knew existed. The beautiful white gown, the symbol of purity and new beginnings, suddenly feels like a costume, a cruel irony. My future, once so clear and bright, has dissolved into a terrifying abyss, and I am left standing on the precipice, utterly alone and at the mercy of this enigmatic, dangerous man. He takes another step closer, and I instinctively recoil, a small involuntary movement that he seems to notice, a flicker of something unreadable in his dark eyes. "Do not misunderstand," he says, his voice softer now, almost conversational, yet still carrying that undercurrent of steel. "You are not in immediate danger provided you cooperate. We simply need you to facilitate a conversation." A conversation. The word sounds so benign, so ordinary, yet in his mouth it takes on a menacing quality, a euphemism for something far more complex and perilous. My mind races, trying to piece together the fragments of information, to understand the depth of Mark's involvement, the true nature of the debt he supposedly owes. This man, this force of nature, has irrevocably altered the trajectory of my life, and I am left to navigate the treacherous waters of his world. The men behind him shift slightly, a subtle movement that reminds me of their constant presence, their unwavering vigilance. I glance at the opulent decor of the suite, the untouched champagne flutes, the delicate floral arrangements, all symbols of a life that feels impossibly far away now. It's a stark contrast to the grim reality unfolding before me, a collision of two vastly different worlds. My carefully constructed bubble of privilege and safety has burst, shattered by the arrival of this man and his silent enforcers. The dream of a perfect wedding, a perfect life, lies in ruins at my feet, replaced by a chilling uncertainty. I am no longer Sarah, the bride-to-be. I am now merely leverage, a pawn in a high-stakes game where the rules are unknown and the consequences are terrifyingly real. He extends a hand, not in a gesture of comfort, but of command. "Come," he says, his voice firm, leaving no room for argument. "We have a limited window of opportunity." My gaze falls to his hand, strong and unyielding, a stark contrast to the delicate lace of my glove. The choice, if it can even be called that, is clear. Resist and face unknown, potentially dire consequences, or comply and step into the terrifying unknown. The thought of Mark, of his reaction, flashes through my mind, but it's quickly overshadowed by the immediate visceral fear of this man and his silent companions. My carefully planned future has been ripped away, replaced by a path I never chose, a journey into a world I never wanted to know. The grand ballroom, once a symbol of my happiness, now feels like a cage, and I am being led out of it, not into a new life, but into a new, terrifying reality. I take a hesitant step forward, the heavy gown rustling around me, a sound that feels deafening in the sudden quiet. My heart pounds a frantic rhythm against my ribs, a desperate drumbeat of fear and resignation. Each step feels like a surrender, a concession to the undeniable power he wields. The men behind him fall into step, their movements synchronized, efficient. I am being escorted, not as a bride, but as a captive, a valuable commodity. The scent of lilies, once a comforting aroma, now feels cloying, suffocating, a cruel reminder of the innocence I've just lost. The world outside the suite, the one filled with my friends and family, feels impossibly distant, a blurred memory already fading into the background. My carefully constructed life, once so vibrant and full of promise, has been irrevocably altered, and I am left to navigate the treacherous path ahead, utterly alone. As we move through the opulent corridors of the Obsidian Hall, the hushed whispers of the staff and the terrified glances of the few remaining guests are like daggers, each one a confirmation of my new, horrifying reality. The grand staircase, which I was meant to descend with grace and joy, now feels like a descent into an abyss. My vision blurs slightly, a desperate attempt to block out the stairs, the judgment, the sheer terror of it all. The man beside me, the one who orchestrated this nightmare, remains impassive, his gaze fixed forward, his presence a shield against the chaos he has wrought. He moves with an undeniable authority, a silent command that forces everyone to part before him, creating a path through the stunned crowd. The weight of his presence is almost physical, a constant reminder of the power he possesses and the control he now exerts over my life. We bypass the main entrance, the one where Mark would have waited for me, and are instead led through a discreet service exit, a back door to a world I never knew existed. The cool night air hits my face, a sharp, unwelcome shock after the warmth of the ballroom. A sleek, dark SUV, its windows tinted, waits at the curb, its engine idling with a low, predatory hum. The men open the door, a silent invitation, a command I cannot refuse. I glance back at the glittering facade of the Obsidian Hall, a beacon of what my life was supposed to be, now a symbol of everything I've lost. The contrast between the opulent interior and the stark utilitarian vehicle is jarring, a visual representation of the chasm that has opened beneath my feet. My future, once a clear, well-lit path, has dissolved into a terrifying, unknown journey. I slide into the plush leather seat, the material cool against my skin, and the door clicks shut with a heavy final sound, sealing me inside. The interior of the SUV is dark, quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos we've left behind. The man who crashed my wedding slides in beside me, his presence a suffocating weight in the confined space. The vehicle pulls away smoothly, silently, gliding through the city streets, leaving behind the shattered remnants of my wedding day. I press my forehead against the cool glass of the window, watching the city lights blur into streaks of color, a kaleidoscope of a world that no longer feels like mine. The silence in the car is heavy, oppressive, broken only by the soft hum of the engine and the frantic pounding of my own heart. I am a bride, abducted, my life irrevocably altered, and the journey has just begun. My mind replays the events of the last hour, a dizzying montage of white lace, crystal chandeliers, and the chilling, unwavering gaze of the man beside me. Mark's face, once so clear in my memory, now feels distant, blurred, overshadowed by the imposing figure who now controls my immediate future. The shock of it all is slowly giving way to a cold, creeping dread, a realization of the profound shift in my reality. I am no longer the woman who woke up this morning, excited for her wedding day. I am someone new, someone defined by this sudden, terrifying entanglement. The city lights outside the window, once a comforting sight, now feel alien, indifferent to the personal catastrophe unfolding within the confines of this dark, silent vehicle. The journey continues, each mile taking me further from the life I knew, deeper into an unknown abyss. The SUV glides through the night, a silent predator on the urban landscape, its destination a mystery to me. I steal a glance at the man beside me. He sits perfectly still, his profile etched against the faint glow of the dashboard, a study in controlled power. He hasn't spoken since we left the hall, his silence more unnerving than any threat. I try to discern something from his expression, a hint of his intentions, but his face is a mask, revealing nothing. The tension in the vehicle is palpable, a thick, suffocating blanket that makes every breath feel like a struggle. I am acutely aware of his proximity, the subtle scent of his cologne, the quiet hum of his presence. My life, once so meticulously planned and predictable, has been violently derailed, and I am now a passenger in a journey whose destination and purpose remain terrifyingly obscure. Days bleed into weeks, each one a surreal blur of opulent confinement and unsettling observation. I am not a prisoner in the traditional sense. The doors are unlocked, the rooms are lavish, and my needs are met with an almost unsettling efficiency. Yet the invisible chains are far stronger than any physical restraint. I reside in a sprawling modern mansion, isolated and surrounded by meticulously manicured grounds, its sleek lines and vast windows offering panoramic views of a world I can see but no longer touch. The silence here is profound, broken only by the distant hum of the security systems and the soft, almost imperceptible movements of the men who guard its perimeter. My initial terror has slowly morphed into a simmering anxiety, a constant undercurrent of unease that never truly dissipates, a stark reminder of my precarious existence. He, the man who crashed my wedding, whose name I now know as Elias, moves through this world with an effortless authority that is both terrifying and strangely compelling. I observe him from a distance, a silent witness to his intricate web of power. Meetings take place in hushed tones in the expansive living areas. Decisions are made with a quiet nod, and his commands are executed with an unwavering loyalty that borders on reverence. The men around him, his brazo direito and seguranzas, are extensions of his will, their movements precise, their gazes sharp and watchful. I see the lealdade como base in their interactions, a silent understanding that binds them together, a code of conduct that is both rigid and absolute. It's a world built on unspoken rules, where a glance can convey more than 1,000 words, and every gesture carries weight. My role, I quickly learn, is to simply exist, to be seen occasionally as a symbol of his leverage, a reminder to Mark of what he stands to lose. Elias rarely speaks to me directly, his interactions brief and to the point, usually concerning my comfort or the logistics of my stay. Yet, his presence is a constant, undeniable force. I catch him watching me sometimes, a fleeting glance from across a room, an unreadable expression in his dark eyes that makes my skin prickle. It's not a predatory stare, not overtly threatening, but rather an analytical one, as if he's trying to decipher a complex puzzle, to understand the intricacies of my reactions. This silent scrutiny is almost more unnerving than any direct confrontation, leaving me feeling perpetually exposed. My every move under an invisible microscope, the moral dilemmas begin to gnaw at me, a relentless ache in my conscience. Do I try to escape? The thought is a constant companion, a whisper in the quiet moments of the night. But where would I go? Who would I trust? The sheer scale of Elias's network, the pervasive reach of his influence, feels insurmountable. I've seen enough to know that his power extends far beyond the walls of this mansion, weaving its way through the city's underbelly, touching corners of society I never knew existed. The idea of involving my family, my parentes proximos, fills me with a paralyzing fear. The thought of bringing this danger to their doorstep, of making them targets, is a burden I cannot bear. My freedom feels like a distant, unattainable luxury, overshadowed by the terrifying consequences of any misstep. I begin to notice the subtle nuances of his world, the paranoia constante e suspeita de traição that permeates every interaction. Every phone call is guarded, every meeting held with an air of caution, every new face scrutinized with an almost surgical precision. It's a world where trust is a rare and precious commodity, earned through years of unwavering loyalty, and betrayal is met with swift, unforgiving retribution. I see the toll it takes on him, the subtle lines of tension around his eyes, the way his jaw is perpetually clenched. He carries the weight of his empire on his shoulders, a burden that seems to isolate him even amidst his loyal followers. This constant vigilance, this perpetual state of alert, is a stark contrast to the carefree existence I once led, a chilling reminder of the high stakes involved in his dangerous game. One evening, a sudden commotion erupts. Shouts from the perimeter, the sharp metallic click of weapons being readied, and the immediate, almost instinctual response of Elias's men. I am ushered quickly, silently, into a secure room, the heavy door closing with a thud that echoes the frantic pounding of my heart. Through a small, reinforced window, I see flashes of movement in the distant trees, figures darting through the shadows. It's a brief, terrifying glimpse into the Força rival that constantly threatens his existence. A stark reminder that his world is one of perpetual conflict. The air crackles with an electric tension, a silent battle playing out just beyond my sight. This is not a game. This is a fight for survival, and I am an unwilling spectator, caught in the crossfire of a war I don't understand. When the immediate danger passes, and I am allowed back into the main living area, the atmosphere is heavy, charged with a quiet fury. Elias stands by a large window, his back to me, his shoulders rigid. His brazo direito, a man named Marco, speaks in low, urgent tones, detailing the breach, the identities of the intruders. I hear veiled references to armamento pesado and vehículos no retrovisor, indirect language that nonetheless paints a vivid picture of the violence that was narrowly averted. The incident leaves me shaken, a visceral understanding of the constant threat that hangs over this world. It's not just about money or power. It's about survival, about protecting what is theirs from those who seek to take it. My fear, once a generalized anxiety, now has a sharper, more defined edge, a chilling understanding of the real dangers that lurk just beyond the mansion's walls. In the aftermath, Elias's demeanor shifts subtly. He is still guarded, still formidable, but there's a new intensity in his gaze, a heightened sense of purpose. He begins to involve me, indirectly at first, in his world, not in the violence, never in the violence, but in the periphery, in the intricate dance of information and strategy. He asks for my observations, my perspective on certain situations, perhaps seeing in me an outsider's clarity, an unbiased viewpoint. I find myself drawn into the complexities of his decisions, the moral gray areas he navigates. He is not a simple villain. He is a man burdened by immense responsibility, making impossible choices in a world where every decision carries life or death consequences. My initial fear slowly begins to intertwine with a strange, unsettling fascination, a reluctant acknowledgement of the intricate mind at work. I witness the relações de poder construídas por gestos e escolhas, the subtle negotiations, the careful alliances, the swift and decisive actions that maintain his authority. He is a master strategist, anticipating moves, exploiting weaknesses, always several steps ahead of his adversaries. There's a cold, calculating brilliance to him that I find myself grudgingly admiring, even as I fear it. He operates with a pragmatism that is both brutal and efficient, a stark contrast to the often sentimental world I came from. This exposure to his methods, to the raw, unfiltered mechanics of power, begins to chip away at my preconceived notions, forcing me to confront a reality far more complex and morally ambiguous than I ever imagined. The lines between right and wrong, once so clear, begin to blur, dissolving into a spectrum of survival. One afternoon, I find him in his study, a vast room filled with leather-bound books and cutting-edge technology. He's on a call, his voice low and intense, discussing a situation involving a civil innocent who has inadvertently become entangled in a rival's scheme. He speaks of protecting the innocent, of minimizing collateral damage, a surprising glimpse into a code of ethics I didn't expect. It's a stark contradiction to the man who crashed my wedding, who held me as leverage. This moment, this unexpected display of a different kind of morality, plants a seed of doubt in my mind, a crack in the monolithic image of the ruthless boss I had constructed. He is not simply a force of destruction. He is a complex individual, capable of both immense power and a surprising, albeit guarded, sense of responsibility. The crianza element from the guide comes into play subtly. I notice a framed photograph on his desk, a faded image of a young girl, her smile bright and innocent. It's a jarring contrast to the grim realities of his life, a silent testament to a softer side, a vulnerability he rarely shows. The photograph becomes a focal point for my observations, a constant reminder that even in this brutal world, there are human connections, emotional anchors. It makes me wonder about his past, about the path that led him to this life, about the sacrifices he's made. This small, intimate detail humanizes him in a way that his power and authority never could, complicating my perception of him, deepening the unsettling fascination I've begun to feel. He is not just a boss. He is a man with a history, with losses, with a past that shapes his present. My conversations with Marco, Elias's brazo direito, become more frequent, more revealing. He is a man of few words, but his loyalty to Elias is absolute, born of years of shared history and mutual respect. He speaks, indirectly, of the sacrifices made, the battles fought, the constant vigilance required to maintain their position. He hints at the autoridade comprometida, the corrupt officials who turn a blind eye or actively collaborate, further blurring the lines between legal and illegal. Marco's insights provide a crucial window into the inner workings of this world, a deeper understanding of the intricate power dynamics at play. He doesn't glorify their actions, but he explains them with a pragmatic realism that is both chilling and illuminating, painting a picture of a world where survival often dictates morality. I find myself in a strange limbo, no longer fully a part of my old life, yet not fully integrated into his. I exist in the spaces between, observing, learning, adapting. The opulent surroundings of the mansion, the mansões modernas isoladas, become my gilded cage, a place of both comfort and confinement. I spend hours reading, walking the grounds, trying to make sense of the seismic shift in my existence. The contrast between the life I planned and this new reality is a constant, jarring presence. Yet, a strange resilience begins to emerge within me, a quiet determination to understand, to survive, to find my place in this terrifying new landscape. The fear is still there, a constant companion, but it is slowly being tempered by a growing sense of awareness, a nascent understanding of the forces that now govern my life. The tension between my past and present is a constant internal battle. I think of Mark, of the life we were supposed to build, and it feels like a distant, faded photograph. The man beside me, the one who shattered that future, is now the most dominant figure in my life, a complex, dangerous presence I cannot ignore. The initial shock and anger have given way to a more nuanced understanding, a reluctant acknowledgement of his intelligence, his strength, his unwavering resolve. It's a dangerous path I'm walking, a tightrope between fear and a strange, unsettling admiration. I am acutely aware of the moral precipice I stand on, the subtle shifts in my own perceptions, the way my boundaries are slowly, imperceptibly eroding under the weight of his world. One evening, Elias approaches me, his expression unreadable. "Mr. Sterling has proven difficult," he states, his voice low. "Your presence is no longer sufficient leverage. We need to escalate." My heart plummets, a cold dread seizing me. Escalation. The word itself is a harbinger of danger, a promise of deeper entanglement. He doesn't elaborate, but the implication is clear. My passive role is over. I am to become an active participant, a more direct instrument in his dealings with Mark. The thought sends a shiver down my spine, a terrifying realization that my carefully maintained distance is about to be shattered. The world I've been observing from the periphery is about to pull me into its dangerous currents, and I am left with a chilling sense of impending doom, a terrifying certainty that my life is about to take another, even more perilous, turn. The next morning, I am informed that I will be accompanying Elias to a meeting, not as a hostage, but as an observer, a silent witness to a crucial negotiation. The destination is vague, described only as a restaurant discreto et elegant, a place where power is exchanged over hushed conversations and expensive wine. The prospect fills me with a mixture of dread and a strange, morbid curiosity. This is it, the moment my passive observation ends, the moment I step fully into the dangerous dance of his world. I am no longer just leverage, I am a presence, a silent statement, a pawn moved into a more strategic position on the chessboard. The air around me feels charged with an unspoken tension, a prelude to the unknown challenges that await me, and I am left with a chilling sense of anticipation, a terrifying readiness for whatever comes next. The discreet restaurant, nestled on a quiet side street, exudes an aura of understated power, its dim lighting and hushed atmosphere a perfect backdrop for clandestine dealings. I sit beside Elias, acutely aware of the weight of his presence, the subtle shift in his posture that signals a heightened state of alertness. Across the polished mahogany table sits a man I recognize from news reports, a prominent, seemingly legitimate businessman, but his eyes hold a cold, calculating glint that belies his respectable facade. This is the autoridade comprometida, the figure who operates in the shadows, blurring the lines between legality and illicit influence. The air crackles with an unspoken tension, a silent battle of wills playing out beneath the veneer of polite conversation. Every word exchanged is a carefully weighed maneuver, every gesture a calculated move in a high-stakes game. Elias introduces me simply as my associate, a title that feels both alien and strangely empowering. My role is to observe, to listen, to be a silent testament to his resolve. The conversation revolves around a complex network of investments, a web of financial dealings that Mark, my former fiancé, has apparently entangled himself in. The businessman, Mr. Thorne, no relation to me, a cruel irony, speaks in veiled threats and thinly disguised demands, his voice smooth as silk but with an underlying current of steel. He hints at consequences, at the unraveling of reputations, at the exposure of secrets that could bring down empires. My heart pounds a frantic rhythm against my ribs, a desperate drumbeat of fear and fascination, as I witness this intricate dance of power, this dangerous ballet of veiled aggression and strategic maneuvering. Suddenly, the restaurant's doors burst open, and a group of men, not Elias's, flood the space. They are rougher, less refined than Elias's men, their movements aggressive, their faces grim. This is the traitor force arrival, a direct assault, a brazen challenge to Elias's authority. Chaos erupts, a sudden, violent rupture in the carefully constructed calm. Elias's seguranças, who had been subtly positioned around the room, move with lightning speed, drawing concealed weapons, their faces grim masks of determination. The air fills with the sharp, metallic scent of gunpowder, the shouts of men, and the terrified screams of the few other patrons. My world, already turned upside down, now plunges into a maelstrom of raw, visceral danger, a terrifying realization of the constant threat that permeates this brutal existence. Elias shoves me roughly under the table, his hand firm on my shoulder, his voice a low, urgent command. "Stay down! Don't move!" The sound of shattering glass, the thud of bodies, the sharp crack of what I can only assume are armamento pesado echo around me, deafening and terrifying. I press myself against the cold, dusty floor, my heart hammering against my ribs, my breath catching in ragged gasps. The scent of fear, both mine and others, is thick in the air, mingling with the acrid smell of smoke and something metallic, something that makes my stomach churn. I can hear Elias's voice, calm and commanding even amidst the chaos, directing his men, his presence a beacon of controlled power in the swirling storm of violence. This is the climax, the moment of greatest risk, and I am trapped in its terrifying epicenter. A stray bullet ricochets off the table leg near my head, sending splinters of wood flying, a stark, visceral reminder of the immediate danger. My body tenses, every muscle coiled, ready to spring, though I have nowhere to go, no way to defend myself. I can hear the grunts of men fighting, the heavy thud of impacts, the desperate struggle for dominance. The world has narrowed to this small, dusty space beneath the table, a terrifying sanctuary from the storm raging above. I close my eyes, trying to block out the sounds, the smells, the sheer terror of it all, but they penetrate my defenses, searing themselves into my memory. This is the brutal reality of Elias's world, a world where life is cheap and power is maintained through force, a terrifying contrast to the elegant facade of the restaurant. Through a small gap in the tablecloth, I catch a glimpse of Elias. He moves with a lethal grace, a blur of controlled power, his face a mask of grim determination. He is not just a strategist. He is a warrior, capable of defending his territory with ruthless efficiency. His eyes, usually so guarded, now burn with an intense, focused fury. He is protecting his own, protecting his empire. And in that moment, I realize, protecting me. The thought is a jarring one, a sudden, unexpected twist in the narrative of my captivity. My fear, though still potent, is momentarily overshadowed by a strange, unsettling sense of awe, a reluctant acknowledgement of the raw, undeniable power he wields, the sheer force of his will in the face of overwhelming odds. The battle rages, a symphony of destruction, then slowly, gradually, begins to subside. The shouts become fewer, the sounds of struggle diminish, replaced by the heavy breathing of men, the low groans of the injured. The silence that follows is not a peaceful one, but a tense, fragile quiet, pregnant with the aftermath of violence. Elias's voice, sharp and clear, cuts through the stillness, issuing commands, assessing the damage. I remain huddled under the table, my body trembling, my mind reeling from the sheer brutality I've just witnessed. The scent of blood, faint but unmistakable, now mingles with the lingering smell of gunpowder, a chilling reminder of the cost of this power struggle. My carefully constructed world, once so pristine, has been irrevocably stained by the harsh realities of his existence. He calls my name, his voice urgent but controlled. "Sarah, are you all right?" I crawl out from under the table, my limbs stiff, my dress torn and smudged with dust and grime. The scene before me is one of utter devastation. Overturned tables, shattered glass, broken chairs, and the still forms of several men, both his and theirs. The air is thick with the aftermath of violence, a chilling testament to the ferocity of the attack. My gaze finds Elias, standing amidst the wreckage, his suit disheveled, a streak of blood on his cheek, but his eyes are clear, focused, unwavering. He looks at me, his expression unreadable, a mixture of concern and something else, something I can't quite decipher, a flicker of vulnerability in his otherwise impenetrable facade. He moves towards me, his steps deliberate, his gaze never leaving mine. "Are you hurt?" he asks again, his voice softer now, a surprising tenderness in its tone. I shake my head, unable to speak, my throat tight with emotion. The sheer relief of being alive, of having survived this terrifying ordeal, washes over me. leaving me weak and trembling. He reaches out, his hand gently touching my arm, a gesture of comfort that feels both alien and profoundly reassuring. In that moment, amidst the wreckage and the lingering scent of violence, the lines between captor and protector blur, dissolving into a complex tapestry of shared trauma and an unexpected, unsettling connection. My heart, still pounding, now beats with a different rhythm, a confusing mix of fear, gratitude, and a nascent, dangerous attraction. The autoridad comprometida, Mr. Thorne, is nowhere to be seen. He must have slipped away during the chaos, a rat abandoning a sinking ship. Elias surveys the scene, his jaw clenched, a cold fury in his eyes. This attack was a direct challenge, a blatant attempt to undermine his authority, and the consequences will be severe. His men, grim-faced, begin to secure the area, their movements efficient and practiced. I stand beside Elias, a silent witness to the aftermath, a part of this dangerous world now, irrevocably entangled in its brutal realities. The elegance of the restaurant is gone, replaced by a stark, violent tableau, a chilling reminder of the constant struggle for power that defines his existence. My life, once so predictable, has been irrevocably altered, and I am left to navigate the treacherous path ahead. As we leave the devastated restaurant, the city lights outside feel strangely muted, their usual sparkle diminished by the grim reality of what I've just witnessed. The SUV's Pretos are waiting, their engines idling, a silent promise of escape from the scene of the crime. I slide into the back seat, Elias following, his presence a heavy weight beside me. The silence in the car is different now, no longer just tense, but filled with the unspoken aftermath of violence, the lingering echoes of the battle. My hands still tremble slightly, a physical manifestation of the terror I experienced. But there's also a strange sense of calm, a quiet understanding that I have survived, that I am still here, and that my connection to Elias has deepened in a way I never anticipated. He glances at me, his dark eyes searching mine. "You handled yourself well?" he says, his voice low, a hint of something akin to approval in his tone. The compliment, unexpected and genuine, sends a strange warmth through me, a surprising validation in this terrifying new world. I find myself meeting his gaze, no longer with pure fear, but with a complex mix of emotions, lingering terror, a nascent respect, and a confusing, undeniable pull. The events of the evening have forged a bond between us, a shared experience of extreme danger that has stripped away the layers of pretense and exposed a raw, visceral connection. My perception of him, once solely that of a ruthless captor, has irrevocably shifted, revealing a man of complex layers, capable of both immense brutality and a surprising, albeit guarded, sense of protection. The drive back to the mansion is silent, but the silence is different now. It's not the oppressive quiet of my initial abduction, but a shared stillness, a mutual acknowledgement of the profound experience we've just endured. I steal glances at Elias, his profile etched against the passing city lights. He is a man of contradictions, a figure of immense power and dangerous intent, yet capable of surprising moments of unexpected care. The world outside the car, once a symbol of my lost freedom, now feels distant, irrelevant. My focus has narrowed to this man, to this strange, dangerous connection that has formed between us, a bond forged in the crucible of violence and survival. My life, once a carefully planned trajectory, has veered wildly off course, and I am left to navigate the treacherous waters of this new, unsettling reality. I find myself replaying the moments of the attack, the way Elias moved, the way he protected me, the surprising tenderness in his voice. It's a dangerous path my thoughts are taking, a blurring of the lines between fear and something else, something akin to admiration, even attraction. The man who destroyed my wedding, who held me captive, is now the man who saved my life, who stood between me and certain harm. The moral compass I once relied on feels shattered, its needle spinning wildly, unable to point a clear direction. This entanglement, this forced proximity, has created an undeniable intimacy, a shared understanding that transcends the circumstances of our meeting. My heart, once solely Mark's, now beats with a confusing, dangerous rhythm, a testament to the profound and unsettling shift in my affections. The mansion, when we finally arrive, feels less like a prison and more like a sanctuary, a haven from the chaos of the outside world. Elias escorts me inside, his hand still lightly on my arm, a silent gesture of continued protection. The Illuminação Baixa and Clima Frio Moderno of the mansion, once symbols of its isolating grandeur, now feel comforting, a cocoon against the harsh realities we've just faced. I look at him, truly look at him, and see not just the boss, the captor, but a man who has shown me a side of himself I never expected. The world has changed, I have changed, and the path ahead, though still fraught with danger, now holds an unsettling, undeniable allure. My life, once a carefully constructed facade, has been irrevocably altered, and I am left to navigate the treacherous waters of this new, unsettling reality. As I prepare for bed, the torn remnants of my wedding gown lie discarded on the floor, a poignant symbol of the life I've left behind. My reflection in the mirror shows a woman I barely recognize, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and a strange, newfound strength, hair disheveled, a faint bruise on my arm from where Elias pushed me to safety. The innocence I once possessed feels irrevocably lost, replaced by a hardened resilience, a deeper understanding of the world's brutal complexities. The man who crashed my wedding, the one I was supposed to hate, has become something else entirely, a protector, a complex figure who has ignited a dangerous spark within me. My future, once so clear, is now a terrifying blank canvas, and I am left to paint it with the colors of this new, unsettling reality, forever changed by the events of this climactic night. The days following the restaurant attack are a blur of heightened security and hushed conversations. The mansion, already a fortress, becomes even more impenetrable, its seguranças moving with a renewed vigilance, their eyes constantly scanning the perimeter. The air is thick with the aftermath of violence, a lingering tension that permeates every corner of the sprawling estate. Elias is a whirlwind of activity, his phone calls more frequent, his meetings more intense, his focus unwavering. He is consolidating his power, sending a clear message to the force arrival that his territory will not be challenged without severe repercussions. I observe him, a silent witness to his strategic brilliance, his unwavering resolve, and the cold, calculating efficiency with which he navigates the treacherous waters of his world. My relationship with Elias has shifted, irrevocably altered by the shared trauma of the attack. The fear is still there, a low hum beneath the surface, but it is now intertwined with a complex tapestry of other emotions, a grudging respect for his strength, a strange sense of gratitude for his protection, and a confusing, undeniable attraction that makes my heart race whenever he is near. He no longer treats me merely as leverage. There's a subtle deference in his manner, a quiet acknowledgement of my presence, a shared understanding that transcends our initial circumstances. We are bound by the crucible of violence, by the knowledge that we faced death together. And that bond, however dangerous, is undeniably real, a powerful force that reshapes the landscape of my emotions. The paranoia constante that defines his world becomes my own. I find myself jumping at shadows, scrutinizing every new face, listening intently to every hushed conversation. The world outside the mansion, once a place of freedom, now feels like a dangerous, unpredictable landscape, teeming with unseen threats. My old life, the one with Mark, the one filled with predictable routines and superficial concerns, feels impossibly distant, a faded photograph from another lifetime. I am no longer the naive bride-to-be. I am a woman forged in the fires of his dangerous world. My senses sharpened, my instincts honed, my understanding of human nature irrevocably altered. The innocence I once possessed has been replaced by a hardened resilience, a quiet determination to survive, no matter the cost. Mark, my former fiancé, is a ghost in this new reality. I hear his name mentioned occasionally, in hushed tones, always in connection with the financial entanglements that led to my abduction. He is still unavailable, his whereabouts unknown, his fate uncertain. The anger I once felt towards him for his perceived betrayal has slowly dissipated, replaced by a weary resignation. He was a part of my old life, a life that no longer exists, a chapter that has been violently closed. My focus has shifted, narrowed to the immediate present, to the complex, dangerous man who now dominates my existence. The thought of returning to my old life, to the predictable comfort of Mark's world, now feels alien, almost suffocating, a stark contrast to the exhilarating, albeit terrifying intensity of my current reality. I find myself seeking out Elias's presence, drawn to him like a moth to a dangerous flame. We spend hours in his study, not speaking much, but simply existing in shared silence, the unspoken understanding between us growing stronger with each passing day. He works, poring over documents, making calls, and I read, or simply watch him, fascinated by the quiet intensity of his focus. The silencios e olhares carregados de tensão that once defined our interactions have evolved into a more comfortable, albeit still charged, stillness. There's a strange intimacy in these shared moments, a quiet acknowledgement of the profound connection that has formed between us, a bond that defies logic and societal expectations, a dangerous dance on the precipice of an forbidden attraction. The parentes proximos from my old life are a constant ache in my heart, a reminder of the connections I've lost, the people I can no longer reach. I know they must be worried, frantic with concern, but contacting them is impossible, too dangerous. Elias has made it clear that any attempt to reach out would put them at risk, making them targets for his enemies. The thought of bringing this danger to their doorstep is a burden I cannot bear, a sacrifice I must make to protect them. My isolation is complete, a gilded cage that separates me from everyone I once loved, forcing me to forge new connections, new loyalties, in this brutal, unforgiving world. The weight of this separation is immense, a constant reminder of the profound cost of my entanglement. One afternoon, Elias finds me in the mansion's vast library, my fingers tracing the spines of forgotten books. He stands in the doorway, his presence a silent question. "You seem different," he says, his voice low, his gaze searching mine. Less afraid. I meet his eyes, a strange confidence blooming within me. Fear is still there, I admit, my voice steady, but it's no longer paralyzing. It's a part of this now. He nods slowly, a flicker of something unreadable in his dark eyes, a silent acknowledgement of the transformation I've undergone. In that moment, I realize that I am no longer just a victim, a pawn. I am a survivor, a woman who has found an unexpected strength in the face of unimaginable adversity, a resilience forged in the fires of his dangerous world. The scenarios typicos of his world, once symbols of danger, now feel strangely familiar. The mansões modernas isoladas, the SUVs pretos, the restaurants y cafés discretos, where he conducts his business. They are no longer just backdrops. They are the fabric of my new reality. I move through them with a growing sense of ease, my senses attuned to the subtle cues, the unspoken rules, the constant undercurrent of vigilance. My apparencia has subtly changed as well. My clothes are still elegant, but now chosen for practicality as much as style. My expressions more guarded, my eyes more watchful. I am adapting, evolving, becoming a part of this world in ways I never thought possible, shedding the skin of my old self and embracing the dangerous, exhilarating reality of my new existence. The cultura and comportamento of his world, once alien and terrifying, now makes a strange kind of sense. The unwavering lealdade como base, the constant paranoia, the relações de poder construídas por gestos e escolhas. They are not just abstract concepts. They are the very foundation of his survival. I understand the necessity of their ruthlessness, the pragmatism of their decisions, the constant vigilance required to maintain their position. My moral compass, once so rigid, has become more fluid, more adaptable. bending to the harsh realities of a world where survival often dictates morality. The lines between right and wrong, once so clear, have blurred into a complex spectrum of gray, and I find myself navigating this ambiguity with a growing sense of understanding, a reluctant acceptance of its brutal logic. One evening, as the illuminasome baisha of the mansion casts long shadows across the opulent rooms, Elias finds me gazing out at the city lights. He stands beside me, his presence a warm, comforting weight. "Mark has been located," he says, his voice low, "and the situation has been resolved." My heart gives a strange lurch, a mix of relief and an unexpected pang of something akin to disappointment. Resolved. The word implies an end, a return to normalcy. But I know that normalcy is no longer an option for me. My life, once intertwined with Mark's, is now irrevocably linked to Elias's, to this dangerous, exhilarating world he inhabits. The thought of leaving, of returning to the mundane, feels strangely unappealing, a stark contrast to the intense, visceral reality I now inhabit. He turns to face me, his dark eyes searching mine, a question in their depths. "You are free to go," he states, his voice devoid of emotion, yet I detect a subtle tremor, a hint of something unspoken. "Your debt to me is paid. Your life, the one you had, can be yours again." The words hang in the air, heavy with implication, a sudden, unexpected offer of freedom. But the freedom he offers feels hollow, an empty promise. The life I had, the one I meticulously planned, is gone, shattered by his arrival, replaced by a new reality that, despite its dangers, has awakened something profound within me. The thought of returning to that predictable existence, after experiencing the raw intensity of his world, feels like a regression, a step backward into a life that no longer fits. I look at him, truly look at him, and see not just the boss, the captor, but the man who saved my life, the man who has shown me a world of raw power and unwavering loyalty, a man who has awakened a dangerous, undeniable passion within me. But is it? I ask, my voice barely a whisper. Is it truly my life again if I leave this behind? The question hangs in the air, a silent challenge, a desperate plea for something more, something deeper than mere freedom. My heart pounds a frantic rhythm against my ribs, a desperate drumbeat of hope and fear, as I wait for his response, for a sign that he understands, that he feels the same undeniable pull that now binds us together, a connection forged in the crucible of violence and survival. His gaze intensifies, a flicker of emotion in his dark eyes, a silent acknowledgement of the unspoken truth between us. He reaches out, his hand gently cupping my cheek, his touch sending a shiver through me, a spark that ignites a dangerous fire within. "The choice," he says, his voice a low murmur that vibrates through me, "has always been yours, Sarah. To walk away, or to embrace the path you've found." The words are a revelation, a confirmation of the autonomy I thought I'd lost, a recognition of the woman I've become. My life, once dictated by circumstance, is now mine to choose. And the path before me, though fraught with danger, is undeniably compelling. A journey into a future I never imagined, a future intertwined with his. The clima frio, moderno, of the mansion, once a symbol of my isolation, now feels like a sanctuary, a place where I can finally be myself, the woman I've become. The contrast between the life I left behind and this new reality is stark, but the choice is clear. I have seen the world through his eyes, experienced its brutal realities, and found an unexpected strength, a dangerous allure, in its depths. My old life, with its predictable comforts and superficial concerns, now feels hollow, empty. My future, once a carefully planned trajectory, has veered wildly off course, and I am left to navigate the treacherous waters of this new, unsettling reality, forever changed by the events of this climactic night, and by the man who pulled me into his dangerous orbit. I lean into his touch, my eyes locking with his, a silent promise passing between us. The world outside, with its judgments and expectations, fades into insignificance. All that matters is this moment, this connection, this dangerous, undeniable pull that binds us together. The choice is made, not out of fear, but out of a profound, unsettling realization of where I truly belong. My life, once a carefully constructed facade, has been irrevocably altered, and I am left to navigate the treacherous waters of this new, unsettling reality, forever changed by the events of this climactic night, and by the man who pulled me into his dangerous orbit. The path ahead is uncertain, fraught with peril, but for the first time in a long time, I feel truly alive, truly myself, in the dangerous embrace of his world. The lingering scent of expensive cologne and something subtly metallic, like cold steel, now feels less like a threat and more like a familiar comfort, a part of my new reality. The ambiance of his world, the illuminação baixa, the clima frio moderno, the contrast between vida comum, clínica, café, e perigo iminente. These are no longer just observations. They are the very fabric of my existence. I have stepped through the looking glass into a world where the stakes are always high, where loyalty is paramount, and where love, when it finds you, is a dangerous, exhilarating force. My old life is a distant memory, a faded dream, and my future, though uncertain, is undeniably intertwined with his, a thrilling, terrifying journey into the heart of his dangerous empire. The choice made, the path embraced, I step fully into the intricate dance of his world, a world where every shadow holds a secret and every glance carries a weight of unspoken meaning. The mansion, once a gilded cage, now feels like a training ground, a place where I hone my instincts, sharpen my observations, and learn the subtle language of power. Elias, my captor-turned-protector, is a constant, formidable presence, his dark eyes often finding mine across a room, a silent acknowledgement of the dangerous bond that ties us. I am no longer just Sarah, the bride-to-be. I am a woman transformed, my innocence shed like a discarded gown, replaced by a resilience forged in the crucible of his dangerous orbit. The fear, though never entirely absent, has become a familiar companion, a constant reminder of the high stakes. Yet, it no longer paralyzes me. Instead, it fuels a strange, exhilarating sense of purpose, a determination to not just survive, but to thrive in this new, unsettling reality. The city lights outside still blur, but now they are a backdrop to my own unfolding story, a narrative written in the shadows and illuminated by the dangerous allure of a life I never knew I craved. The future remains a tapestry woven with threads of uncertainty and peril, yet I face it with a newfound resolve, a quiet strength that surprises even myself. The whispers of the outside world, of what I left behind, grow fainter with each passing day, replaced by the urgent, visceral realities of the present. Elias and I, two disparate souls brought together by a twist of fate, navigate the treacherous currents of his empire, our connection deepening with every challenge, every shared risk. The Força Rival still lurks. The Autoridade Comprometida still plots. But now I stand beside him, not as a pawn, but as an unexpected ally, a woman who found her true self in the heart of a storm. The path ahead is fraught with danger, a constant tightrope walk between loyalty and betrayal. But as his hand finds mine, a silent promise passing between us, I know that whatever comes, we will face it together, forever bound by the dangerous, undeniable pull of a love born in chaos.